Hello, and welcome to the final class, Lesson 6 in the How to Stop Second Guessing Yourself and Achieve Your Dreams course, where you accepted the challenge to expose your voice of self-doubt, learn ways to disarm it, and put an end to second guessing yourself once and for all so that you can feel confident in your decisions, stay committed to your actions, and achieve your dreams. We're rounding out the second half of part 3, where you're learning to experience the calm confidence of balanced decision making. Today, we're going to recap those things that cause us to second guess our decisions, have that self-doubt. And then in addition, we are going to continue learning the questions to ask when we are getting ready to make a decision. And then once we've made a decision, we're going to learn how to assess our progress, new information that comes in, and changes that may cause us to modify our decision at a later point. So there are many reasons that cause us to doubt ourselves or second guess our decisions, and some of them are internal, and we talked about a bit about those in parts 1 and 2. Becoming aware of the beliefs you hold that are limiting and holding you back, becoming aware of your perspectives and those internal blocks, and understanding those triggers and the negative thought patterns that cause you to second guess yourself. Now, in the last lesson, we started to discuss a system to make decisions that you're happier with, and using a system such as this, even when you don't have complete information, but that uses your head decision and your heart decision and looks at other things that would be required of you after you make the decision, helps you to make a more informed decision that you can feel happier with, and as a result, not doubt that you did the right thing. Now, another thing that causes us to feel happier with our decisions and not have that self-doubt and second guessing is deciding and committing confidently. And we can do this once we have looked at all the angles, we've considered how we thought about the decision we're going to make, and we've also considered the practical side of things. And we say, yes, this feels good to me, and I'm going to do it. When we set out making a decision in that way, the energy we bring to the tasks that are required to follow through on that decision are a higher energy and typically give you better results. And finally, this is a big key point in feeling successful in your decision making, is assessing your progress. You've made a decision and some time has gone by, you've taken some action, going back to the decision, looking at that need that you were trying to fulfill, and assessing new information that has come in, changes in your life that may have changed your situation and the true need, and then considering and deciding again and committing again, should that be what you choose, is huge in feeling confident in your decisions. Now, these are the initial steps that we talked about in the last class, and you actually did an activity on to start the decision-making process, the multi-dimensional decision-making process. And the first thing you did was you asked yourself, what is the purpose of my making this decision? What is the true need here? Think back to what you wrote down, or take out that paper that you have that on, and refresh your memory what the goal of making the decision was and what the true need was. And then after you did that, you looked at the values and you selected your top 3 to 5 values, and you made sure that you were considering them when you asked yourself the following question. When you brainstormed and you asked, how can I reach the true need and honor my core values at the same time? So look at that list of options that you have, and you should have at least 4. And you should have also considered how they make you feel, whether they feel good or they feel like obligations, and considered also other ways of thinking about those ones that may seem like obligations, so that you can consider them in a more positive light if necessary. Now, so that was where we left off at the end of last session. This session, we're going to select at least one of those options that feels in line with your core values, that motivates you, and that meets the true need. And I say at least one because there may be several on the list that feel like, they could be potential options. And that's why we sometimes have difficulty making decisions, because we do have options. So select at least one, but it could be more than one. And I want you to ask yourself, what are all the sacrifices I would have to make if I were to choose this decision and commit to taking action on this decision? And this can include time, money, the energy to learn something new, the effort to work through your fears and move out of your comfort zone. Things such as that should be included on your list, and write those down. I think sometimes we will make a decision and not think through all the things that means for us, all the things we might have to give up. And then when we get going, we don't like what we see in front of us, and we can tend to throw in the towel, or we can start to second guess ourselves. So this is a key question to ask yourself, and write out all of those sacrifices or resources that making that decision will require. And the next thing is, look at that list and be honest with yourself and ask yourself the question, do I truly want to invest in following through with all of that? Is it worth the commitment of my resources to go down this path in order to reach my aim? Now, once you've done that, once you've considered that and you've said yes or no, I want you to look at the next option you selected that is a viable option, which is in alignment with your values. And I would like for you to ask these two same questions. What are the sacrifices with each option? And am I willing to invest and follow through? Now, the next question that you're going to ask yourself is, okay, I've listed out all the sacrifices I will have to make in order to follow through on this decision. And sometimes that can be a lot, and it can be scary that, well, do I have the time? Do I have the money? Do I have the wherewithal to do that? And it can cause us to feel less excited about that decision we were considering, that we felt good and felt like it was in line with our values and would meet the true need. But all of a sudden it's like, oh, that's a lot of work. And we can start to get cold feet. So this question helps with that. If I don't take this action, what could that result in? What could the consequence be of not deciding to pick this option and following through with it? Another way to look at this question is the pain of not taking this action, staying where I am, greater than the pain of following through? So if I don't take action and this consequence happens, is that pain greater than all that you would have to sacrifice or do in order to follow through with this decision you're considering? And once you've written down your answer to that and you've thought that through, and you've done that with all the subsequent viable options you have, look at all of the options that you have and consider how it feels in your gut or in your heart about making each one of those decisions. And consider the logical side as well. And when you look at those options, which one feels right to you? And decide which one you would like to pursue. Now, sometimes when we are making a decision, it involves other people or it impacts other people. So we might not be able to say, this is what I'm going to do flat out. But going into a conversation and communicating what you are planning or would like to do, having done this work, puts you in a really good position to communicate that effectively, to gain buy-in for what you want, and also to share your reasoning behind it, and maybe even get another perspective that would shine some more light on it to further verify or help you go back to the decision and do a little bit more research so that you can be really, really confident in your decision. And so once you've done that, you've communicated what you would like to do, your plan, what you would like to decide. The next step is to actually decide and commit to taking that action, or commit to not taking that action consciously. And there's a big difference between avoiding making a decision, and consciously choosing not to do something. There's power in choice. So that is the multidimensional decision-making process, bringing your head and your heart into the equation, as well as asking some questions that sometimes don't get thought about when you are considering decisions. And this is a summary of each of the steps. It's define your goal and identify the true need. Brainstorm with your values top of mind what options you have to meet that true need and reach that goal. Then from there, you select from your options the ones that feel most right to you based on your intuition and the logic piece that we did last time. And then you ask yourself some further questions about sacrifice and resources required and your ability to have the stamina to follow through. Followed by, well, if I don't do anything or if I don't take this action, what could be the consequences? Would they be worse than the effort that I'd have to put forward if I did choose this decision? And then you consult with and communicate your ideas and your thoughts about what decision you'd like to make with those people who are most closely impacted. And then the final step is decide and commit to taking that action. One thing I do want to say here is when you're making a decision that you can make on your own and doesn't really impact other people, then you need to communicate what you plan to do with yourself. And a good way to do that is to write down your decision and what you've committed to do. That adds another layer of accountability and commitment to the decision. It's not just in your head, it's on paper. Now we're getting ready to take some action, but before we do, I wanted to remind you of the 4 things that you want to consider when you're getting ready to make a decision. We can never know everything in advance of making a decision to make that perfect decision. There are a few decisions that are irreversible or catastrophic. Indecision can be worse than taking suboptimal action based on a decision you've made. And finally, sometimes we make a decision and we take action and we don't get the results we had hoped for. And we then can feel ourselves having some feelings of unhappiness about that decision. Sometimes these feelings are necessary. Okay? So with that in mind, let's take some action. I would like for you to look at those options that you had listed from last time. I'd like for you to select one, but if there are more that feel good to you or right to you, select all that feel right to you. And I want you to ask yourself these questions. What must I sacrifice in order to follow through on this decision? Do I truly want to invest in following through? Is it worth my commitment of resources? If it seems like it's not worth the commitment, if I don't take this action, what could be the consequences? And could not taking this action actually have bigger consequences? And then communicate, decide, and commit. That's it. That's the multidimensional process for making decisions you are happier with so that you don't have that nagging self-doubt and second guessing around the decisions you make. Now, there's one big piece that I have found very helpful when I make decisions, especially decisions that are larger decisions and that require effort over the course of time. And that is recognizing that making the decision is not a one and done process. Now, you might not be happy to hear that because decision making might be difficult for you. Now, if it's a bigger decision and you have actions to take over time, then you're going to want to revisit your progress in following through and taking action on that decision. You might ask yourself, well, why would I do that? I've made that decision. I just want it to be behind me. Well, there are 3 main reasons. The first is when you made the decision and you started taking action on the decision, you gain more information about the decision that you've made, about your abilities, about what's possible. And that can influence the steps you take moving forward. Also, you make a decision and it may be a decision that the actions will run over the course of several months. And during that time, something has changed in your life that has caused that original need to change or disappear. And so it might not even make sense to continue down the path you started, or you might need to tweak it, or you might say, yeah, this is still right for me, and continue on. But when we make a decision and then don't revisit it and reassess our progress and new information and the situations that have changed, that may have changed, we are moving forward kind of blindly. That doesn't serve anybody. And when we get to that end result, we may feel disappointed because, well, we had assessed the true need originally, and then over the course of 2 or 3 or 6 months, and all this effort and sacrifice, we get there and wait a minute, well, this isn't doing what I thought it would do, or this isn't doing what I needed it to do because the true need had changed. This is really important when you're making decisions to assess the progress that you're making, assess the situation, incorporate new information, right? And once you've done that, going through these steps, then you can make a decision again. You can choose to continue down the path you've decided. You can choose to say, yes, the need is still there. However, it has changed in these ways, and therefore I need to tweak my approach. Or you might decide, you know what? I don't need to be doing this anymore. The situation has changed. I have more information that has made this decision not such a viable one. And I am okay with putting this down. Now, how do you do that? This is also key. Being able to change your mind and not feel like you are being out of integrity with what you said you were going to do is important. It's important to be able to do this in a way that you feel like you are in integrity with yourself. And so how I do this is, if it's a decision that only impacts me and I've made it and I've committed to it, and now I feel like, I don't want to do this anymore because it doesn't fit the need anymore. I've done the assessment. I acknowledge that to myself, that I am consciously choosing to stop taking action on this decision because it no longer makes sense. Now, when it impacts other people, you want to bring them up to speed on your assessment and share this information, communicate. Hey, when I started out, these were the facts. I've since learned this. This has changed. And as a result, this doesn't seem to make sense anymore. And communicate. And once you've done that and you've had the conversation, then it's easier for you to step back from the decision and feel in alignment with your integrity and not beat yourself up about it. Okay? This is huge. These last 2 slides are huge. And when you do this, this also takes off some of the pressure of, okay, I'm going to have to make this decision. And when I make this decision, I can never, ever change it. Or I see myself out of integrity, and that doesn't feel good either. Okay? All right. I really hope that these 6 lessons have shed some light on decision-making, on self-doubt and second-guessing, and on how you approach decision-making and where self-doubt shows up for you. This topic is near and dear to my heart because in order to live a bold life, in order to do the things that are most meaningful to you, you have to make decisions. And sometimes the decisions are difficult ones. But until you can feel comfortable in making decisions and move forward confidently and not second guess yourself, you are going to be held back. You have exposed your voice of self-doubt. You have learned ways to disarm it. And by taking this action, you're putting an end to second guessing yourself so that you can feel confident in your decisions, stay committed to your actions, and achieve your dreams. That has to feel good. Should you want more information about this topic or about the Courage Catalyst, you can reach out to me via email, and that is patricia@thecouragecatalyst.com. You can also go to my website and learn more about what I have to offer, and that is www.thecouragecatalyst.com. And you can sign up for my newsletter and get weekly updates. Thank you once again.